How can you tell if your country is failing? Is it when hundreds of thousands of children have to rely on food banks to stay alive in a country with over 89 million acres of cropland? Is it when your own people can't drink the water from their taps as the government spends billions in foreign aid projects around the world? Perhaps it's when violent criminals take over our cities and turn them into half-abandoned, unlivable hellscapes as the government is now offering to kill people who have simply had enough. Or perhaps it's when your own people just can't afford to live in their own country anymore as the government floods the country with millions of economic migrants. All of this is happening in Canada right now, in Justin Trudeau's Canada. None of it is normal, and absolutely none of it should be acceptable. There is a viral video circulating around social media right now of a snaking lineup outside a downtown Toronto food bank, and the video says all you need to know about what is going on in Canada right now. Canadians are literally starving in Justin Trudeau's Canada, and trust me, that is not an overstatement. Stick around for the Ratio of the Week prize, drop a like in the video, help us out by subscribing to the True North YouTube channel, and the comment question for the episode is this: have you ever seen Canada this bad? Let me know, and let's get into it. Just watch this video. This is from Monday in downtown Toronto outside of the Fort York Food Bank. No one speaks in this video, but no one has to. The video itself says an awful lot about where we are as a country right now. Last year, there was a 134% spike in Canadians needing to access food banks just to stay alive. And this year, that number is predicted to jump another 60%. But if you were to ask Justin Trudeau at one of his clearly scripted town halls, he would tell you that Canada's economy is doing really well right now compared to the rest of the world. Can't you feel it?
Canada as a country is doing really well. And doesn't always feel that way because we're going through a tough time right now. But first of all, the job numbers we have, the employment is great. So many people have jobs. That's always a stability in the economy. But more, the kinds of jobs we're bringing in for the future and the way Canada is positioning itself for the coming decades should give people a lot of confidence.
This article is from the CBC in late October of 2022. More Canadians are turning to food banks than ever before, new report says. The report said the skyrocketing cost of housing, as well as high inflation and low social assistance rates, have contributed to the rise in food bank usage. What we are seeing is the combination of long-term effects to a broken social safety net, combined with the effects of inflation and high costs, driving more people to use food banks than ever before in Canadian history. The report also said that around 500,000 food bank clients, about 1/3, are children. Take that in. 500,000 children in this country have to rely on food banks just to stay alive.
Sunny ways, my friends, sunny ways.
But the Canadian government, they really care about the people, guys. They really care about making sure those 500,000 children don't have to rely on food banks to survive. That's why they introduced the extremely generous grocery rebate. This is taken from the federal government's news release. To make life more affordable, Budget 2023 delivers the new grocery rebate, offering targeted inflation relief for 11 million low and modest income Canadians and families who need it most, with up to an additional $467 for eligible couples with children, an additional $234 for single Canadians without children, and an additional $225 for seniors on average. So if you were ever curious about how the government values you as a citizen, look no further than this grocery rebate, this extremely generous check of $460 for a family with children. That's basically 3 trips to the grocery store. Oh, and if you're a senior who spent your life paying taxes to this country and contributing to this country, the government will give you a nice fat check of $220 for food. You don't want to line up at the food bank every single day to keep your child fed? Well, here's $400 so you don't have to come back to the food bank for about, let's say, maybe a month and a half. We'll see you back in a month's time, though. But someone should tell those families having to go to the food bank to keep their children fed and live a little bit longer that there's just not enough money to go around. Because in 2021, the Canadian government under Justin Trudeau had to spend $8.4 billion in foreign aid. The government knows you're struggling. That's why they're offering families $450. How generous. Meanwhile, here's $8.4 billion to fund foreign projects around the world, which will not do one single thing to lift the lives of any Canadian. The government knows you can't afford to live in the city you grew up in and your family paid taxes in for generations. That's why they're sending $1 billion to Ukraine. Or what about sending $70 million to Sudan, which was just announced yesterday? And did you know that in 2021, Justin Trudeau gave China $2.8 million of taxpayer money as aid? Now, $2.8 million in the grand scheme of things is not a whole heck of a lot of money from the government, but I would venture to guess that the Chinese Communist Party haven't sent a single Chinese yuan over to Canada to help us with our struggles. As the Chinese Communist Party meddles in our elections, spies on Canadians, and threatens Canadian politicians, we are sending them millions of dollars in aid as our own people are starving in the streets. What about mass immigration? How is that helping the people who are just trying to survive day by day? Both Justin Trudeau and Pierre Poilievre are in favor of continued high-level mass immigration into this country, regardless of the problems, regardless of the future consequences. Justin Trudeau, since 2016, has brought in more than 1.3 million immigrants to Canada, the highest number of new immigrants recorded in any census. Trudeau added over 430,000 immigrants to Canada in 2022, and by 2025, Trudeau wants to bring in another 1.5 million immigrants. And according to our genius Prime Minister, the key to solving the housing crisis is more immigration. Try to wrap your head around that one.
And that's where immigration is actually a solution on housing and not just a creator of more problems of housing shortages, because as we bring in people to work in the construction industry, we can create even more homes.
Even though Canadian citizens can't afford to live in the cities they grew up in, the federal government under Justin Trudeau has no problem renting out close to 2,500 hotel rooms in Niagara Falls to house illegal migrants. Now, there's a word for how the Canadian government treats its own citizens compared to how they roll out the red carpet for illegal asylum seekers, and that word is betrayal. Ultimate betrayal of its own people. But the worst betrayal of all, the most disgraceful thing the Canadian government has overseen since the last residential school shut down, is the fact that 1 in 6 First Nations communities still live under boil water advisories. The Canadian people can't even drink the water out of their own tap as we send billions of dollars every single year to fund water projects across the world. In November of 2015, Justin Trudeau made a promise to Canadians that by 2021, all long-term boil water advisories would be lifted in this country. But hey, when you have to spend over $8 billion a year on other countries, finding the money and the effort to take care of your own citizens, that clearly becomes a lot more difficult for Justin Trudeau's Liberals. Because as of today, there are still 44 long-term boil water advisories in this country. And in one Northern Ontario First Nation, Nescantaga First Nation, that community 3 months ago marked the 28-year anniversary of living under a boil water advisory. 28 years. Imagine that, just for a second.
Chief Wayne Muniz says the lack of clean water on the Fly-In First Nation has taken a serious toll on his community members, many of whom have lived their whole lives without potable tap water.
We say we live in the greatest country in this world. Canada is one of the greatest countries, one of the most richest countries in the world, and yet a First Nation in Northern Ontario is not able to access clean, safe drinking water in their homes. And that should tell Canada something. That should tell the public something. Why is that still happening today? And it's not a celebratory moment. It's actually a shameful thing to think about and to even share that we are still talking about this after 28 years.
Even though the Canadian government really has to send $1 billion to Ukraine, watch as a First Nations chief has to beg Justin Trudeau to take the water issue seriously on First Nations communities. It's a national disgrace.
There are many communities still suffering, such as Adwabaskat, and there's still many communities reeling with third world conditions. You're calling for a partnership, reconciliation, justice. Well, there's a lot of communities, such as Adwabaskat, that need to be heard. And there's communities like us shouldn't be suffering to meet the basic needs for our people. It's a struggle. When we say every child matters, within my community, there's a lot of children and they all matter. Niskanjaga, for water, the basic life. Why do we have to come to these forums just to meet the basic needs for our people?
And just as Canada begins to embrace the new mold of being a failed state, the federal government has offered us an out. They've offered us the chance to just kill ourselves at the hands of the state. Just watch what the leader of a Mississauga food bank says to a journalist about what's going on. The fact that people are now willing to kill themselves instead of struggling to just get by in this country.
I want to play you a clip, if you don't mind. We've done multiple stories about the cost of living, and this one in particular surprised a lot of us.
So people are so desperate, they're coming here for food, but then they're asking you about assisted suicide?
Yes.
You're having people ask you about assisted suicide?
Yes. When I say that this is an emergency in the community, people who are living at the bottom income percentile in our community are talking to us now about taking their own lives because it's too hard to be poor any longer.
That's the CEO of the Mississauga Food Bank, and we were stunned by that. What goes through your mind when you hear that?
It's heartbreaking.
But Justin Trudeau, his heart breaks for them. It really does. Ratio of the week time. The winner this week is the Liberal Party of Canada. This weekend is the Liberal Party convention, and if you're in Ottawa, they've got quite the lineup of speakers that I'm sure you're going to want to check out. All the usual suspects, the Trudeau cabinet, including Justin Trudeau, are of course going to speak, but there's one big speaker that they really wanted to announce to the Canadian people to try and really get them excited about the Liberal Party convention. Take a look at this. Time and again, Hillary Clinton has been a global leader on human rights, strengthening the middle class, and building an economy that works for everyone. We're excited to announce that she'll be joining Chrystia Freeland for a keynote conversation at Liberal Convention 2023. 3,968 replies to only 2,334 likes. And you know what? For a party that attacks the Conservatives for importing American-style politics and for inviting a speaker as beloved as Hillary Clinton, that ratio, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? These parody accounts get me every time. This is from Toronto Sun columnist Brian Lilly. No party imports American-style politics nor American politicians quite like the Liberal Party of Canada. What a winning combo. Oh yeah, what an exciting conversation that'll be. Freeland, Hillary Clinton, what more could you ask for? Now, for personal safety reasons, I've decided to keep my opinions about Hillary Clinton nice and close to the chest. But don't worry, we're thinking the exact same thing. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for us this week on the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Harrison Faulkner, and this is Ratioed.